Morning, everybody. Ever been in the middle of nowhere? Well, on this date, January 4 in 1854, one of the remotest spots on Earth was discovered, the McDonald Islands off the coast of Antarctica. Well, here is Antarctica at the bottom of the planet, and of the three continents, it's sort of close to. South America is the closest. And when the early maps were made, like this one in the Middle Ages, the map maker assumed that this mysterious southern land actually touched South America. So people thought there was a big southern continent, but they didn't know anything about it. So Prince Henry the Navigator from Portugal, pictured here, he started sending ships down the western coast of Africa in the 1400s, and here's a map of Bartholomew Diaz and Vasco da Gama. And one thing the explorers noticed as they went around the bottom of Africa was cold air coming in from the south, a little sign of what was down there. And then when Magellan's crew went around the world, he himself didn't make it because he was killed in the Philippines, but a few of his crew survived. They went around the bottom of South America, and they went through the Strait of Magellan, pictured here, icy and stormy, and they thought that that piece of land just south of the strait was actually attached to this mysterious southern land. They didn't know what we know today, of course, that it's part of South America. So here's a stamp for Abel Tasman. He was a Dutch explorer, and he did a lot of sailing in the area of what's now Australia and New Zealand. Here's the map of where Tasman went. And he proved that Australia, which simply means southern land, was not this mysterious southern landmass that everybody thought was down there. So here's Captain James Cook. He sailed around the world 3 different times. On his first trip, he was in Tahiti in Polynesia, and then he went south to see if he could find this mysterious land. And here's a map of the routes of Cook's 3 voyages around the world. You notice he gets up to Alaska, where there's a Cook Inlet today. But he really probed to the south, seeing if he could find this southern land, and he actually went below the Antarctic Circle, which you could see on this map. But he had to quit because he couldn't get through these mountains of ice, and the rigging on his ship was getting frozen, but he proved whatever's down there is pretty inhospitable. So over the years, more and more countries send explorers to Antarctica, and this map shows some of the many expeditions. Why were they doing it? Well, one of the reasons was the trade in seal fur and seal blubber and things like that. So a lot of the explorers were related to the sealing industry. Well, in the 1830s, it was proven there was a magnetic North Pole. So was there a magnetic South Pole? And that was something explorers wanted to find. And one of those was James Clark Ross, a British naval officer. And this is the Ross Ice Shelf. This is named after him. It's a huge piece of floating ice down there. So here are the McDonald Islands. In our event, January 4, 1854, the McDonald Islands were discovered by William McDonald, an American, probably a sealer. Here's what they look like. They're very, very remote. They're considered part of the Antarctic Islands. They're owned by Australia and have Australia's only 2 active volcanoes. And they're very, very remote. And I encourage you to read this book called Mad Travelers. It's about people who go to these really remote places like the McDonald Islands for a fee. Pretty fascinating why people do that. There's even some scamming involved, but it's really a great book. Well, over the years, Britain, Australia, the United States, New Zealand, Norway, Chile, everybody claimed land in Antarctica. So a treaty was made, and now today it's a neutral site, mostly for science, although I guess tourist boats go down there. Here's a picture of the geographic South Pole and the scientific establishment. So Antarctica today, beautiful in its own way. It's got the penguins, kind of haunting. a desolate place on the planet.